Welcome to the Forever Better Academy podcast, where you will be given the principles, tools, and techniques to reach the next stage on your journey of self-mastery. Who could you become? I'm your host, Wade Vincent.
Hey guys, welcome back once again. Now they say that one man's trash is another man's treasure, but one man's treasure can be another man's trash, right? Now, today, what I want to go through with you guys is a discussion around value being in the eye of the beholder. Okay, so it's a thing where it's subjective, right? Value is different to each and every one of us depending on what our agenda is and what we hold dear and what's important to us, right? So what can ultimately bring immense value to one person can have absolutely no value whatsoever to another. And if you look at and this is a perfect example of why those marketplaces exist, right? Like the eBays of the world, and even like in Australia we have what's called Gumtree. I'm not sure if they have that overseas or not, but basically it's almost like a virtual online flea market, garage sale, swap meet, whatever you want to call it, and something that that someone can't stand and wants to get rid of. Like a perfect example, right, is an old couch, right? For example, you might have this couch that you just are sick and tired of looking at. There's nothing really wrong with it, and it doesn't have much value to you anymore. It's just become a burden, and you want it out of the room, right? And then you put it on one of those marketplaces, and you put it on for like $100 because you couldn't really care. Like your Facebook Marketplace just come to mind as well, right? I can't believe I forgot that. And then someone else jumps on there and sees that couch and is like, that's only $100, and I can, I could get that refurbished and put new fabric on it, and it would be great in my rumpus room, and the kids would love it, and there's such a different value that person assigns to that item that means absolutely nothing to you. Right, so this is what I want to talk to you guys to talk through together today on episode number 75. So ultimately, right, we are all looking for value in our lives. Every interaction or transaction or dealing with that we have as a society and a species is we're looking for value, right? We all want to feel like we got a good deal. Right now, this is why we have multiple different stores that sell the same products, right? And value doesn't just come from the price, right? It's not just driven by I can go and buy a nice bottle of red wine at one liquor store or a bottle-o, and it's $50, and then I can go and get the same bottle of red wine for $35 2 blocks away, right? That's only part of it, right? Part of the value, it comes from so much more than just price, right? Price is an easy way for us to determine, or a marker, if you will, on the price being the value point that we say, that's good value or that's not so good value, and we use that price as a marker. But really, what does drinking that glass of wine do for you? How do you feel when you drink it? Do you buy that bottle of wine for a special occasion? Is it perhaps you're celebrating the birth of a new child or a new opportunity, or you just started your business and your friends come around, right? And you sit and you talk and you laugh and you have a wonderful meal, and everyone shares the wine and comments on how nice it tastes, and all of these little intrinsic extra value that comes from the experience itself, right? Like that, and that, again, right, that wine can have immense value in that scenario that I've just described versus you being, say, in a spot where you might feel miserable and you're drowning your sorrows and you have a glass of red wine on your own, it's going to be a very different experience of value that you've gained from that wine in those two different occasions, right? So there's more than just the value on the price. It's the value of the experience and what it brings and how it enhances and fulfills your life, right? So this is, as I say, this is why we have stores that sell the same items. You might go to one store and it's a horrible experience, and you're happy with the product at the price. Say that, to use the wine again, you're paying the $35 for a bottle of wine where you just go in and it's transactional. The staff in the store couldn't care less. They don't make eye contact. They don't say hello. They're not polite. They want to rush you out of the store, versus the same wine 3 blocks away at a different store where they're welcoming, they're excited to see you. You come in the store and they greet you, they know you by name, they talk to you about how you enjoyed the last bottle that you purchased and what you're looking for, what kind of flavors are you after, what's the occasion, right? And you pay $50 for that bottle. Which brings more value to you, right? Same wine, exactly the same wine in two different stores with two different experiences, and the value is vastly different from both experiences right now. And this is generally why we don't like to shop around. We don't like to settle on the first deal that we see, and we shop around, right? And being in 2022, that everything virtually is available to you online any time of the day, it's even easier, right? Like, especially this is how my mind operates. I would always go and look, like if we went to like a shopping mall, right? In Australia we have Westfields. I'm not sure, they might have them overseas, but like even within the mall there'll be multiple stores that sell the same products, and I would go walk all around the mall when I was younger and find what that product was in one store, and then head down and compare it to the next store, and then walk over to the top level and find out at another store what they were doing and the price, and thankfully now I can do that on my phone or on whatever device I'm on, rather than walk around and spend the time perusing different stores in a location. It's a lot more efficient to do now, and this is why we do these things, right? Because we as I say, value is perceived differently by all of us, right? So and differently at different times. We don't feel the same way about something, as I said, in one situation or time in our lives as we do in another, right? Like I can recall when I was 21 years old and I was, excited by cars, and Japanese imports were all I could think about, right? And then I got an R33 Skyline and I put, nice kit on it, new rims, did the exhaust, work on the interior, like had all these plans to, rebuild the motor and do all this stuff, right? That at that point in my life, there was immense value in that experience, because what was important to me at the time, right? A nice car, meeting girls, like hanging out with my mates, going on road trips, like those things, were factors that drove the desire, no pun intended, right? And the value that I experienced from that car. Now I'm in my late 30s. Like I couldn't care less about Japanese import cars, right? I think, God, imagine if I was still into that and sinking money into that. I would spend a lot of money on that, and getting very little in return for it. And now I look at it and I'm like, it's a completely different value proposition where I wouldn't spend money at all on those things, right? So it's really, different scenarios are absolutely going to impact and affect the value that we perceive an item or an experience to have. And on top of that too, there's even factors sort of outside of our control, being the market itself, right? Let's say, to use that example again with the Japanese import cars, at the time they were very popular, and there's like an import car tax in Australia where if a car was younger than 15 years old, there's immense taxes that you had to pay to bring them into the country, and made them far more expensive than other places around the world, right? And that was a factor outside of our control, being how the market was responding to that current time, right? And now, like all those cars are well and truly more than 25 years old. Some of those, like R32s, 33s, 34s, S15s, 180s, all those kind of cars that I was interested in, those sort of 90s model cars from Japan. Now there's none of those taxes because they're so old, and the market is maybe different. I don't know, because it's not my thing right now. So maybe it's still popular amongst younger kids, but I imagine those cars would be considered sort of old and not as desirable as they were at that point. And now they're much cheaper, right? Because the market is dictating that the value is different now that they're older, right? So, and ultimately, I guess what it sort of boils down to is really none of us want to feel like we got the short straw. Right now, do you know what I mean when I say the short straw? Like, if you've ever seen like one of those old school movies where they're trying to find the fairest way to pick someone who has to do some task that no one wants to do, right? And they get straws and they cut the straws and they put them in the hand, and each person takes a turn to pick their straw, and the short straw is the one that loses, right? So that's what I mean when I say, you don't want to feel like you got the short straw, right? Like, or the bad end of the deal. You don't want to feel like you got duped, and because that's driven from us all seeking and having that desire to find value in our lives, right? This is why we, as a species, right, we get excited and we tell our friends. Like, you'll see it if you on social media, or people will brag about getting something on a discounted price or on a sale, right? Because you feel like the perceived value increases. And again, to use that example with the wine, right? The difference between the $35 wine at the store with the horrible experience versus the $50 bottle, same wine, at the store where you have that great experience, how much more value do you feel that you've received when the store that sells the bottle for $50 discounts it to $35 and you get the same experience, right? That's exceptional. You're like, you overwhelmed and even more excited by the value. You got a great deal that time, right? And it's a good deal to begin with. So it's really, it's important for humans. We feel this need to feel like we got a good deal, right? Like, and I don't know. I think nobody likes the experience of getting shafted, right, or being conned, right? It's a horrible experience, and I think it probably boils down to our feeling of our own, I guess, intelligence. Like, we were foolish enough to be taken advantage of, or we got tricked, or we got swindled. We feel a little bit foolish or stupid about it because we didn't pick up on it. We'd been had, those feelings. Like, I'm sure all of us at some point have been had, like it's this is a normal part of life. There's people out there that look to take advantage of others, and sometimes it happens. So, and I think too, a point that I'd like to talk to is really when it comes to value, right? And then a thing that probably doesn't first come to mind when you consider these sort of situations is the grass is always greener syndrome, right? This can be absolutely debilitating if you think about the almost like, I guess, how would you describe it? In a way that, those people that are never satisfied and they're always looking for more, or they're so worried about missing an opportunity, or I guess a good way I've heard it explained is paralysis by analysis, right? Or analysis paralysis. So, if it doesn't make sense, what it really means is you spend so much time analyzing your options and choices and what decision you could make, that you become paralyzed with the paradox of choice and don't ultimately make a decision because you can't confidently choose which is the best choice for you, and ultimately end up making no choice and lose out entirely, right? So that's part of this too, that I think is important to factor into those decisions, right? If you think through, if you constantly have that viewpoint that the grass is always greener on the other side, you're never going to be satisfied, right? You've already conditioned yourself to be like, yes, but what else? What else could I be having? And it's a very debilitating and destructive, mindset to hold on to, is that because it always puts you, it removes you from the present, takes you out of that current position that you're in, and being thankful for what you do have that is right in your hands and in front of you, and you're always looking for something else. And that's the most surefire and quickest way to disappointment and never being satisfied with anything in life, because you're always looking for the next thing. What's the next thing? What could be better than this? And most certainly there is some merit, because improvement and achieving greater things and obtaining nicer things, or if you want to work towards driving a nicer car or having a better home for your family or greater opportunities, you need desire to look for those things, but not at the expense of the things that you currently hold, or the beliefs that you currently have, or the opportunities that you currently possess, right? So it's very important that the part of this is appreciating and understanding the value of the things that you have within your grasp. Like, there's a great saying, I've heard it attributed to a Russian proverb, and I'm not sure if that's the case, but a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And I always thought that's such a beautiful thing, right? Like, you appreciate that bird. You might not have two birds, but you've got one and it's in your hand. Like, you have it, right? The two birds in the bush is opportunity. There's potential there to have twice as much as you do have, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get either of those birds. So it's a really nice, beautiful reminder to think, appreciate what you do have, right? So and why I bring up the value discussion, and I know this might seem a little left of center to some of the usual topics of discussion on the podcast, is really delivering value and being of service to others is what truly brings joy and fulfillment and success in your life. And it's really around, I want to circle back to that real meaning of providing value for others, right? Which is where this conversation is going today, is really around providing that value for others, and the importance of really, as I say, like setting that landscape in the earlier part of the discussion, is you cannot determine what other people perceive as valuable, right? So if you might think that what you're doing for someone else is a really great deal for them, or based on what your perception is, or what you think is a fair deal or reasonable, the person that you're transacting with or interacting with might not feel, based on their life experience and prior situations they've been in, that what you're providing is of as much value as you think it is. Right now, it's what I can tell you, though, is ultimately, when you go out to provide greater value for the person that you are dealing with than they expect, they will almost always certainly reciprocate. It shows a gesture of goodwill. It's good faith when you take on that approach and that mindset, and the desire to provide a greater experience and more value than that person believes that they're going to get or is expecting. They're left with a great and wonderful experience with you. And then they tell other people about that because they're so blown away and excited or impressed with that experience and how it made them feel when they interacted with you, that they're going to share that with others. And that's really that catalyst, that snowball, that foundation of success in your life, be it whether you want to make an impact in your community, whether you're looking to start a business and support customers, or whether you're running a charity where you're helping other people, or just in general at your workplace where you want to collaborate and work effectively in the best possible way and interact with your fellow colleagues. All of those experiences are enhanced and become better because of our desire to create greater value for the person that we're dealing with, right? Now, of course, you can't know from the very first interaction what how that person perceives value or what's valuable to them, but if you listen, the person will tell you, right? Most certainly. Now, I'm in sales, and I guarantee you the easiest way to understand what someone is looking for and what someone finds value in is to listen. Let them talk. They will tell you. They want to tell you. All of us want to be heard, right? And if you know that someone is genuinely listening intently and they're interested and that you can see that, you can they're looking in your eyes and they're there, they're present, they're with you, and they're wanting to know more about you and what you would like from this experience, this transaction, they'll open up because they feel safe to do so. They feel you're a person that they can trust, that they can relate to, and you do that with good intent, right? If you have, there's no sort of trickery in it. You genuinely care. When you listen to someone, do it because you care enough, because that person that is your fellow man, your fellow woman, they're just like you. We're all the same. We all have the same experiences, no matter where you live in the world, what language you speak, or who you are, your gender, your orientation, your religion. It doesn't matter. One thing we can all relate on is this universal experience of being a human. We all seem to have this connection, this bond, this thing that ties us together, that we can understand each other's experiences because they're all common, right? And if you go out to do the best you can for others, you're really doing the best you can for yourself. It's a win-win, right? Like, you do the right thing by other people and go out to give them the most value that you can provide for them in that experience, even if it's just that singular transactional interaction you have. Make everyone feel better for having interacted with you, right? When you do that, you've created this reciprocity that I promise you, it comes back to you. The times that I was more focused on myself and trying to get a good deal for myself at the expense of that other person, I've lost friendships because of that. Like ruined relationships because I was selfish or greedy, or I was too concerned with what I could get out of that moment rather than looking out for one another and trying to give the best I can for that person. And sometimes you get burnt, but generally you start to get a feel for it. You go through life and experience, and you can read it. You understand the situation, and you sort of start to know who's safer to do business with, who's safer to be around, who's the kind of person that you don't want to interact with or have in your circle. It all comes with experience, right? Now, timing is critical too. Like, again, with as I said, the timing of the market that determines value and the factors that come into play in those interactions that we have outside of the people that are making the deal. The timing is crucial, right? Now, timing is everything. You might have heard that. It's almost like a cliche saying, timing is everything, but it most certainly is. And a huge part in value in a deal is learning to make decisions quickly, right? Because ultimately there is a trade-off between value and time, and the longer that you take to take action, the value and time ratio decreases exponentially. So if you imagine, here's your time to make a decision. Oh no, let's say like value on this side, on this is the x-axis and y-axis, I'm not sure. Time and the value here as you make the decision. Time here, short time to make a decision, the value's up here, and as you go through time, the value starts to decrease. If you take longer and longer and longer to make that decision, the value starts to decrease, right? And it's exponential. So I think it's important. At least, it'd be remiss of me if I didn't mention the importance of timing in making decisions, and how it puts it imparts, I guess, some of its I don't know how to say it. It takes away from the value. It decreases exponentially. Like, the time taken to make a decision can actually cost you far more in that transaction, because you can end up losing the opportunity if you take too long to think about it. So if you can find that happy balance of knowing how to make the decision in the quickest manner with the most effective research and due diligence that you can, if you can do that in a nice balance, you find that optimal point to get the most value in the best period of time, right? So when you're always driven to provide more value for others than they expect from that interaction, people will always want to do business with you. It's very simple to run a business with good intent and a good brand value, if you will, because the more value and opportunity that you create for others, the more value and opportunity that comes your way, right? It's the age old, it's like almost like the original advice on this. This has been around for thousands and thousands of years, right? And sometimes it gets so lost because we hear it so much, we just dismiss it like it's just a cliche that doesn't hold any value, but it really does. You have to give before you receive. It's showing. It's like you're stepping foot in the arena, right? You have to show the world what you have to offer, what you can give, what you can bring to others. And then the world and the universe understands what it needs to return to you, right? If you put out, it's like karma, right? There's all different cultures around the world speak of this. Now, it doesn't need to be broken down into the most perfect scientific formula to understand that it's real. You know it is, right? You've probably experienced it countless times in your life already. The times when you've done a good deed or a good gesture and you put that energy out, and sure enough, that good energy, it comes back. It's like attracts like, right? So when you understand how to listen to others and understand their perception of value and what value is to them and what it means to them, and find that right balance of timing and what you can deliver to others, you will be able to increase your value in the eye of those who behold you, right? Like, as I said at the beginning, value is in the eye of the beholder. And it's not just value about the item or the deal or the experience or what you give. Like, the value that people see that you bring. They look at you and go, this person has my best interests at heart and wants good for me, and then they feel a sense of obligation or duty to share with others because you've done a good turn for them, and no doubt they will do the same for you, right? And ultimately, like, even if someone, say you 8 times out of 10, the people that you went above and beyond for did the same for you and 2 times they didn't, they're fantastic odds, right? They're far better to have those 8 people than you, say, try to get whatever you can out of a deal, or get the most out of it, or milk it for everything it's worth, and then 8 out of those 10 people go and tell others that you're a horrible person to deal with and don't trust you, don't do any business with you ever. What happens? Business doesn't succeed. You don't have a good network or connection or people that speak highly of you, and then you got to start over again, right? Now, the more you give, the more you get, right? All right, so that's what I got for you guys today. I appreciate you being here. I hope that this episode brings some value to you guys, right? These are the lessons, the tools and techniques and principles that I live by on a daily basis, that have been shared with me from other people who I admire and look up to, and are doing wonderful things in the community and within their businesses. And I look forward to growing into that great kind of person that I can continue to share these things and help others become the best versions of themselves that they can be. I say it at the end all the time. Who could you become? What's the best version of yourself that you can be? And if creating more value for other people is the best version of yourself, then that's a pretty good version to aim for, right? All right, guys, I appreciate you all. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching the video. If you are listening to the podcast, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you enjoyed it. Share it out with others on your social channels, and I will catch you again next Friday on another episode of the Forever Better Academy podcast. Until then, be safe, be kind, and look out for one another. All right, guys. See you later.